Do you have joint or hip pain? Have you been told that you need your hip or your knee replaced? Well, this is one of the main things that we're going to be talking about today, but I have a feeling our conversation is going to go anywhere it wants to go. Because if you've been told that you need surgery and you need a replacement, stop. Before you do or make any decisions or go into that white coat trance, I hear and obey, I would love for you to listen up because today we have, and I'm telling you, this is like an out of body experience for me because we've been trying for 5 years to get world renowned chiropractor, but he is beyond a chiropractor. He's like a Swiss Army knife of chiropractors because he knows a heck of a whole lot more. And you will recognize his laughter and you will recognize who he is once I say it's Dr. John Bergman. And I am just so excited that he is here today to talk about inflammation and how inflammation can affect how your bones feel, how your body feels, and what are some of the things that you can do to get better, get to the root cause.
And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here waiting for you.
Hi, my name is Lillian McDermott, and I am a certified life coach and the host of the Lillian McDermott radio show Classroom. If this is your first time tuning in, please know I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide natural ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Well, yes, you heard me right when I said Dr. John Bergman is in the classroom. And our first conversation was, what? You know Dr. Lorraine Day? Oh, he is my best friend now. I'm so excited because you'll get to be excited. If you haven't met him yet, you'll want to learn more with him too. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. John Bergman is here to do just that. Welcome to the classroom, Dr. Bergman. It's so nice to see you.
Oh my God, Lily, thank you so much for inviting me on. I've been looking forward to this forever. Then when I did the research on you, I thought, oh my God, we got a symbiotic brain here. I mean, it just, and your love of Dr. Lorraine Day is equals mine. But oh my gosh, hip and joint regeneration.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
that's the jam.
share a little bit about your background because as a chiropractor, I read that you were in a car accident that led you to this path. So share a little bit about your background and what led you to chiropractic and then also beyond chiropractic and natural health.
Well, in the late 80s, early 90s, 91, I was a contractor, built buildings, had a cabinet shop. So I was in mechanical. Okay, I understood how things work. And then I was hit by a car, had both my legs broken, my sternum fractured, my skull fractured, liver bruised, heart bruised. I mean, a bunch. And I tried to keep working. And it's kind of interesting. The last job I was working on was I was putting an x-ray lab in for a chiropractor. And I threw my back out, putting up the lead sheets, and I didn't know anything. So I strapped a brace on and handful of Tylenol, and the chiropractor's looking at me, slap, what are you doing? Well, I literally needed to just get the job done. And he taught me a lot about how the body worked. He adjusted me to get my back functioning correctly. Had this warmth flow down my legs, and it was amazing. So we talked for hours about the mechanics and neurology and blood flow and everything about the body. And he told me, he said, you should be a chiropractor. I said, buddy, it takes me 6,000 a month to live. I've got 4 employees. I'm 30 years old. I'm not going to change life. But I was at the same time praying to God for a change because I just didn't feel that I was on the right path. Next day, I'm hit by a car. you
Isn't
know,
that the way God works, right?
and the old saying I had to keep repeating: God never does anything to you; He does everything for
For
you.
you.
And so the medical world saved my life. I mean, I'm in intensive care. kept me going. And they said, don't worry about it. We'll give you drugs. You'll be comfortable, and we could replace your knees with machines later on. And here the chiropractor is adjusting me in the wheelchair with my legs in casts. And he says, nah, legs will heal. You're fine. Your body will regenerate. And so I had this dichotomy, these two different people who are respected.
Mhm.
And but then it started to make more sense what the chiropractor was talking about. And so I looked into chiropractic college and had a bunch of engineering background. So I started it, and I found out that I had a knack for anatomy. And then I sold everything and went
Wow.
into school. I ended up tutoring anatomy and then teaching anatomy and then studying different courses, and studied with the best skull guy in Canada and the best neurology guy in Georgia. And that, so I could learn how the system works. And I found out that a lot of the instructors were wrong. I dissect a human body that was a 30 or 40-year-old patient that was a cadaver, and find a ton of arthritis. And I dissect a 70 or 80-year-old cadaver and find no arthritis.
Mhm.
And so arthritis isn't a factor of aging. It has to do with an adaptive response, or the body adapting. And that blew my mind. And since I was older, going back to school, I questioned everything. Heck, I still question everything.
You weren't in the white coat trance syndrome, right?
Not at all, not at all. And they say that we're complementary, and I say no, I'm antagonistic. Alternative, no, this is the only thing, baby. Getting the body to heal itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. And so, but isn't it wonderful that what, and this is one of my favorite quotes from the Bible, when it comes to healing, and it's when Joseph met his brothers, and he said to them, because they thought he was going to kill him, and he said, what you intended for harm, God intended for good. So that harm that came to your body, God had a process that you needed to go through so that you can finally choose the career that you were selected to do. So you chose chiropractic,
Mhm.
and have you how did you get to that place where you're so recognized as a chiropractor? You have an incredible YouTube channel. You're able to explain things so well that even I can understand what's going on. So share how that came about, where you were the passion that you have to educate others about what you've learned too.
It's almost like if you know a secret and you want to tell others that their bodies are, yeah, we're taught that they're self-healing, self-regulating. Well, if that's true, then high blood pressure, type 2 diabetes, what's broken in the body? Or is that really the body adapting? And so I went and, back in 2007, when I started the YouTube channel, there wasn't a lot of censorship. In fact, I could say anything. I could say something um, about in certain injectable procedures like vaccines. Can't say any of that stuff now. I could say a lot of stuff about medications, and it was fantastic because I do an education series on cholesterol drugs or nonsteroidal anti-inflammatories. And since I was monetized on YouTube, they put an advertisement for cholesterol drugs, even though I'm saying, look, man, statins cause brain damage, increased cancer, and everything else.
Yeah.
So it was
Dementia.
fun for
Dementia
me.
likes, yeah, dementia
Dementia,
likes, yeah.
yeah,
Class
with
action lawsuit, yeah.
50% of the way to the brain's cholesterol. So you take something to reduce it, might have a neurologic component.
And
But
that's
it,
the duh.
duh.
Yeah.
And so it got exponential, but it's like the people are going at chronic illness or disease in a wrong fashion, and I could see it. And so I had to tell people. And, anytime I did a talk on vaccines, I get comments like baby killer, or, you're going to want disease to come back. Or I say, look, your body forms cancer to protect you from abnormal cell growth. Oh, it runs on my family. Inflammatory bowel disease is correctable. No, you don't understand my genetics. It was fun because I had an opportunity to talk
Mhm.
to everyone. But then
Yeah.
in 2020, I got demonetized, shadow banned, and everything else
Yeah.
because I'm saying, look, you cannot be afraid of a virus when 45% of your DNA is viral in origin. You know, that viruses aren't even alive,
Mhm.
that it's just a way to transfer information. Yeah.
And you got zinged a lot. I had shared with you that I'm probably around 60 to 65 videos that have been removed. Many of Dr. Lorraine Day's videos have been removed.
Mhm.
2017, 2018, that was perfectly fine up to up to that moment. I have a good friend. Her name is Ellen Jacobs. She is a cancer coach, and I just sent her a picture of that 2018 show that we did together was taken away. And so there is we have to stop and think, why do they care? You know, it was the way it was. We could say just about anything. They're stopping us from telling these truths. However, pornography is still there. There's a lot of other things that, addiction, these terrible shows that are teaching children how to not declare who they are. You can declare whatever you want. So, those are the things that are being allowed. And so pretty soon we will not be able to use YouTube or Facebook for things that are real. That's why I have a BitChute account. Do you have another account as well? Do you
Oh
have,
yeah,
which one do you?
BitChute, Rumble, Twitter. I was kicked off of TikTok. We went
You
from
were
from
oh my gosh.
6,000 to 90,000 subscribers in a month.
Yeah,
And then I said, there's certain medical procedures that can create inflammation that are forced on, bam, that's it, done.
that's it. You're
But,
done.
yeah, I think we're a little over 600 videos that have been deleted,
Yeah,
and the board's going after me for dangerous information. And
yeah.
that's why I call it's information porn. So if you pay a little bit for a site, then I can have free information on that.
Mhm, mhm.
So
And I
yeah,
know that you have the drbvip.com where you can
yeah.
have a subscription. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's talk about this inflammation, which we were told inflammation is part of the disease process. Whereas what I know today may be different, and maybe you could correct me if I'm wrong, but what I know about inflammation is part of the healing process. Am I going down the wrong path? Should I be censored because I just said that? So share a little bit about the inflammation process and what its purpose is.
Oh, brilliant. I mean, you're 100% accurate. Inflammation is a healing process. And then people will say, well, systemic inflammation or inflammatory lifestyles, or no, 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 no. Let's just look at this. So if you scratch yourself, you're breaking tissue, you're breaking cells, instantly the body's going to release these histamines and start this cascade of cellular activity to regenerate.
Mhm.
I mean,
Mhm.
first there's blood vessels are constricted, then they open up. I mean, it's brilliant. So inflammation is a healing process. Now, in the chemical treatment world, wait, let's call it medical care. Okay, where they're giving you a chemical to alter your response to the environment. That's the bummer, because the public will hear, well, Advil, Motrin, Aleve are anti-inflammatories. So is vitamin C, omega-3s, juicing, blending, strawberry juice uh, are anti-inflammatories. Well, let's look at the difference. Inflammation is a breakdown and buildup of cells. And this breakdown and buildup creates things called free radicals that can damage undamaged cells. And so now antioxidants like vitamin C, omega-3s, any kind of plant product, it deactivates those free radicals. So it allows the process of inflammation to work. Now, the insanity of giving a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory like Advil, Motrin, Aleve, you could say Tylenol, but nobody even knows how that works. That's not in the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory category, but it has similar effects. Those things decrease the building product of cartilage called proteoglycan production. So here, take this Advil. I know it's going to destroy cartilage in your entire body, but it'll make you feel comfortable. That stops the inflammatory process. That's the insanity. So in order to regenerate joints, we have to create a local inflammatory process, which, I mean, freaks people out, but it works.
You know, gosh, it was the first time ever in the station when I started radio back in 2011. I learned about prolotherapy. I don't know if you do prolotherapy,
Yeah.
but the whole purpose of that was to create inflammation so that the body could regenerate. And I remember having a prolotherapy injection on the show, and it's like, okay, like nobody could see me at the time. We didn't have it on. I don't think we were on video at the time, but he did the injection, and the that inflammatory process actually created the pain to go away. And so I didn't understand very much back then, but back then it just like you start learning about things that don't make sense. But now the things I was taught don't make sense. And it's a really and people look at you, and I had mentioned to you before we got on the air or before we started recording that I used to make fun of people like me and possibly you because I believed in the system of the doctor, and listen, I'm not here to cut down medicine. I'm not. And I'm not talking about allopathic medicine and correct, because there, if I were like you were in a car accident, I was in a car accident,
Mhm.
that's the best time to take advantage of that. But what I didn't understand is that the body is constantly trying to figure out how to heal. But if we give those chemicals to our body and we stop the process, and now we're seeing the effects of stopping the process. And when we stop the process, now it creates a new symptom, which now the allopathic community call a disease. So let's talk about these diseases that are inflammatory, that people are taking medications for. And what would be some of these diseases that are because of inflammation? And how did it happen? And how can we stop it?
Perfect. You got it nailed, because the medical world will come up with an idea, name something, and rename it. Like if you look at arthritis,
Mhm,
arth means joint, itis means inflammation.
mhm,
So if I said osteoarthritis, you might think that that's a joint inflammation.
mhm,
However, osteoarthritis, which is the most common type of arthritic and known, it's a non-inflammatory joint condition. Okay, so now think how stupid this is. Okay, so I just said joint inflammation, but it's a non-inflammatory joint condition, but we put it in the joint inflammatory category.
mhm.
And so when I wrote the book, How to Reverse Arthritis, I got called up before the board and they said, how can you say you can reverse arthritis? I said, well, osteoarthritis, it's no wonder the public's confused. It's not joint inflammation. It's the body adapting to trauma. So if the public knew that joint damage was from a trauma or from damaged tissue, the public would say, hey, fix it. Don't just give me a drug to decrease it. And joints don't wear out as they age. So when you look at the studies that take old cadavers and young cadaver bones, torsion, compression, I mean, all the different force loadings you put, old joints work just as good as young joints. So we're not designed to break down. But now, when you look at other inflammatories like inflammatory bowel disease, okay, and they put that dis-ease category at the end. But again, that's not true. To have inflammation, you have to have tissue damage. And so that means that what is the medical world going to do for, say, an inflammatory bowel disease? For one, they give a steroid to decrease inflammation, so that's going to stop the repair process. Then they give nonsteroidal anti-inflammatories for more pain relief. Then they'll give an antibiotic, which destroys the gut flora, damaging the bacteria, allowing the yeast and funguses to which have yeast have these hyphae, these tendrils that bore holes in the intestinal tract, creating a leaky gut, allowing proteins that aren't tempered by digestion to leak into the bloodstream, creating a massive inflammatory response by the immune system and tissue damage. And every drug they give suppresses that. And that's why I say ulcerative colitis got me married. Well, I met this really cool girl who came out from New York to help her friend, and she had ulcerative colitis. And I said, "No problem, your body can heal that. I'll help you." And she ended up marrying me. So, baby, you got to meet Sarah. Lily, you would love her.
Okay. We'll make a date. We'll make a date. That'll be good. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. Okay, so what do you suggest for someone who has ulcerative colitis? What should they do?
Number one thing, it's the pattern interrupt that Lorraine Day pissed you off with. Um, I tell them your body is responding correctly based on the stimulus, and
Correct.
you got to break everything down in tissue production. This is every disease on the planet. We have an automatic nervous system called autonomic. One, and your body only has two switches. One sympathetic, which means fight or flight.
Mhm.
The other one regenerates tissue. So when you are under physical, chemical, or emotional stress, bam, this fight or flight system kicks up. And instantly you got to run away from danger. So blood flows from the gut, which is under the rest, digest, and repair control, to the arms and legs so you can run away. But also, there's a whole cascade where the blood becomes thicker. Okay, where the liver starts to break glycogen down to glucose, so blood sugar goes up, adrenaline goes up, and pupils dilate, heart rate, blood pressure, everything goes up. Now, if you're in a chronic fight or flight state, you have a chronic decreased blood supply to that gut. Now, here's the weird thing. Like when I was teaching human dissection, I could show you the parasympathetic nervous system. It's located in the pelvis and the neck. And I could show you the sympathetic nervous system, which is located in the mid back. So imagine if somebody had some kind of fall, a trauma, they were a cheerleader, or they fell off a bike or a skateboard when they were 12, damaging their pelvis or their neck. In today's crazy world, be given a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. Here, kid, you'll be fine, but no one's going to be even following to see if there was chronic stress state to that. And so if these people are in a chronic fight or flight state from some minor physical trauma, it's going to affect organ tissue, hormonal production, everything. So when I get somebody with ulcerative colitis or inflammatory bowel or anything, I say, take off your shoes for two reasons. One, it's a pattern interrupt. But if you see that big toe is leaning towards the other toes, that means that you've got compromised nerve supply to the foot. And this is beginning bunion formation or bunion formation. That indicates a possible pelvis trauma. And that pelvis is housing half of that parasympathetic nervous system. So then I'll ask them, how are your sleep patterns? Oh, I sleep fine. I wake up 3 times in the night and then I go right back to bed. Okay, well, I know your sleep patterns are interrupted, so that means you're in a chronic state of stress. I know that you have an unstable pelvis, so let's look for the physical stressors, and that's why we take, X-rays, stressed and static X-rays, and then we do a live blood cell analysis to see if the blood is efficient at holding oxygen, or if it's showing signs of stress. Then we do a full body thermography to see areas of increased metabolic response. So we look to find the stressors. Then we do nerve scans to find out if they're in a fight or flight state, and then we fix it, because you cannot fix inflammatory bowel disease unless you get the person out of that fight or flight state. You can't fix any disease if they're in a chronic state of stress. Because the body, any disease, if you look at it, and I keep asking every patient, show me a disease that's not a tissue production problem. Show me a disease that's not the body adapting correctly to stress. And when you talk to somebody with a chronic inflammatory bowel condition and you say, look, your body's adapting correctly to the stress, we're not going to fix the bowel unless we address the underlying stressors. And there's only three. There's physical stress, chemical stress, and emotional stress. And we're going to have solutions for all three, and we're going to get you healthy.
That's amazing. That's amazing. You touched on something for me, because I have been, gosh, it's been so long where I could sleep the whole night. Sometimes I can sleep maybe 3 hours and then I'm up for the rest of the night. And just recently, I started using extra progesterone. I don't know if you know who Dr. Michael Platt is, but I've been following I've been taking some extra progesterone that's helped kind of relax me. But when you talk about waking up several times a night, just recently we turned off all the electricity in the room, and that has helped me sleep through the night, but I still wake up where I can go back to sleep. So
Mhm.
I'm thinking maybe I need to get my pelvis examined, like what's going on there, because I did fall, and back in 2009, I fell down a flight of stairs, and the doctor at the time said, "You're lucky to be alive." And I figured, oh, I'm okay. But I didn't, at that point, you understand. Yes, I am lucky to be alive. We know that. We're all lucky to be alive in today's environment.
Mhm.
But to think that so how do you adjust the pelvis? How do you decide, okay, I'm stuck on parasympathetic or sympathetic? How do you get to that unsticking? Or,
You've got to identify the problem. And when you just look at sleep, because sleep is when the body regenerates,
yes.
the body goes through 90-minute cycles. And this is so cool. It's like if you've ever seen those alien movies where they take over a human body because they can repair quick, you go through these 90-minute cycles called rapid eye movement when 100% of your energy is going to tissue production.
Mhm.
It's something our parents never taught us, that sleep is one of the most important parts of your day.
Mhm.
And in fact, if you look at people that sleep more than 9 hours, they're getting less stimulus to the brain. And this is common with Alzheimer's and dementia patients. If they sleep less than 5 hours a night, it's common with chronic illnesses and disease adaptations like
Mhm.
cancer or destruction of their body.
Mhm.
But knowing that you go through a 90-minute cycle, when you complete that cycle, your eyes literally open, then they close. And if there's enough
Really?
light to see your hand in front of your face, bam, the fight or flight system kicks up, and
Yes.
you got to get up to pee. Or just like a cat under stress, like you've seen the Halloween cat, that they go "Tss," like that. Human beings have these muscles that aren't under conscious control. They actually run on either side of the spine from the skull down to the pelvis,
Mhm.
and they're going to increase in tone under stress. So if you have any kind of stress stimulus, okay, and particularly when you're coming out of that rapid eye movement cycle and you get that fight or flight, bam, both of those are going to fire off. And then people will have to roll over because they're uncomfortable or get up. But if you can maintain that rapid eye movement cycle, go from one 90-minute cycle to another, that means you're sleeping the full 6.5 to 7.5 hours that is optimal for a human.
Mhm.
Then you maximize tissue production. That's why we
Interesting.
have courses on how to reset that circadian rhythms so you can regenerate your body.
Interesting.
Oh, there's so
Interesting.
many tricks. I mean, like for one, we recommend like eye masks, or it has to be so
Yeah.
dark you can't see your hand.
Yeah.
Manta eye shades are great. We recommend taking out the auditory influence with white noise, set at 528 cycles, so that allows the cells to transfer nutrients. We recommend sleeping on grounding sheets so that you're on an electronegative surface.
Mhm.
Because I tell people like you in Florida, you can't sleep on the ground, you'll meet some bad people. So, this thing is a sheet that just plugs into your bed, and
Yep.
the socket, and it works really well. So there's ways to change that sleep patterns. So when you're talking about healing disease, we got to look at tissue production, because if you build cells healthier and faster than than building unhealthy
Mhm.
cells, that's called health. If you're building unhealthy cells because of chronic stress and you're just surviving, that's called a lack of ease.
Mhm. Mm. Very interesting. Very interesting. I love this. I'm just like soaking it all in. Okay, so when I first started the conversation today, I announced that with people with inflammation, they might have somebody say to them, you need your hip replaced, and you need your knee replaced, or you need a body part replaced. So
Yeah.
let's talk a little bit about that. Is it true that replacing something solves the problem? What's the root cause?
Oh my gosh, Lily, you are right on. Okay. Okay. Now this has to do a lot. So if we just talk about hips, okay, when you're looking at hips, and it looks like on an x-ray, it looks like you got the femur, the leg bone going into the socket. Well, what you're going to see a lot of times is the hip bone will be distorted. It won't be round. and the socket will be changed to adapt. And this I see in probably 80% of human beings, where no human being has perfectly formed hips. Maybe, elite athletes are going to have perfect on either side, but the body is always remodeling and adapting. Now, all the joints in the body are fluid. Okay, they need fluid inside of it. They're hydraulic, and they need that fluid in order to give nutrients and cushion, nutrients to the cartilage, and fluid to adapt to the joint. Like, just think, if you're walking, when you're taking a step, the leg moves out, so there's a negative pressure creating a negative pressure in there, increasing the synovial fluid, which is the fluid in the joint production. Now, so where does that fluid come from? Well, it comes from the blood. Well, if the blood's in a stressed state where the cells have lost their, because the way blood is, if you look at the red blood cells, they're supposed to be like two negative magnets, always repelling each other. If you have low stomach acid, wait, what would cause low stomach acid? Oh, stress, that fight or flight aspect. So you're decreasing the parasympathetic nervous system and decreasing that digestion. If you're decreasing that digestive aspect, you're not getting the amino acids from the proteins to rebuild, and you're not getting mineral absorption. Without minerals, you can't utilize vitamins, and the blood becomes thick, so it can't filter into that membrane to get the fluid into the joints that the joints need. So when you're seeing a distorted joint, there's a drying up or desiccation of that joint structure. And so the body inflamed, and just think of this. If I create inflammation in my arm, I'm going to put a hot cloth on it. And then I take the hot cloth away. What color is my arm? It's going to be red, because the brain senses that difference in temperature and increases the blood flow to that area. So I'll tell patients to put moist heat on that joint. And what's that going to do? It's going to artificially raise the blood pressure, artificially increase synovial fluid production, and instantly the joint's going to feel a little better. And I'll tell them, look, that's just a parlor trick, okay? That's only temporary relief. Don't worry about it. But it means that if we can get blood to flow to that joint, then the joint can start to regenerate. And then if we can change the force loading on it and everything. But when you go in and you're not looking at anything other, you're looking at a damaged joint, the surgeon goes in there, cuts the bone off, drives a fake joint in there. They're not understanding that the pelvis will be unstable if they're going to replace a hip, that the mechanics are completely altered, that each joint has a huge amount of sensory input into the brain. And when you take that joint away, you're missing the sensory input. And so then the person's going to have a balance issue. They're going to have lack of stimulus going up to the brain. So you're getting alteration in brain function and adaptation. And I mean, to take that to the extreme, when I was a student, I was in the dissection lab preparing brain sections, doing coronal sections. And this chiropractic neurologist was walking by, and he was probably 5 to 7 feet away. And he looked at the brain I was cutting and said, ooh, that person had a lower left limb dysfunction. And I looked at the brain and I'm going, huh? Eventually now I know the neurology and I can see what he was seeing. But what happened, he didn't know that I took it out of a cadaver, that it had healed lower left limb amputation. So,
Wow.
so think of this. If you have altered function, you have altered stimulus to the brain, and the brain, through what's called neuroplasticity, which means the brain is always rebuilding new connections to adapt to the stimulus going up. Man, you replace a hip, or you replace knees, or you replace both hips and both knees, you're getting altered input into the brain.
Mm.
And that's scary. So just replacing a hip, to say it just involves the hip, is foolishness. And then to not change or stabilize the pelvis, or to fix the biomechanics of the calf or the knee or the health of the blood, or all the factors that led to that hip not being able to regenerate correctly, is insane.
Is there any It's too late. It's too late. When you hear somebody say, "Oh, it's bone on bone," or you need to go you need to get your hip replaced stat. Is there ever a you must do it? I mean, other than a car
I,
accident or anything like that, barring that, is it too late for someone and they must have their joints replaced, or can they start the process and um, regenerating that tissue, that lubrication, all of that?
there is always a point where if there is so much destruction, like somebody's been taking nonsteroidal anti-inflammatories for years, they've been in a chronic state of stress for years, so their tissue production is horrible. Okay, absolutely. But I tell even that person who is in line, we still got to fix the biomechanics. And let's just talk about the hip,
Okay.
the biomechanics of the foot. We have to get the calf restored. We have to get the knees working correctly. We've got to stabilize the pelvis. We've got to correct any lumbar adaptations. We got to change your sleep patterns. We got to change your emotional component. Okay. We've got to fix the physical, chemical, emotional stress. Then, if you have to get the hip, your body can adapt better. If
Wow.
we do all of that, you got a good chance of it regenerating. Now, hundreds and hundreds of patients have come to me. They'll walk in the office, they'll sit in a chair, and they'll say, "The doctor said my knee is bone on bone." And I'll say, "There's no friggin' way that doctor is accurate, because you would not be able to be sitting down with that leg bent." And, and if the joint moves, all the joints are alive. If they move, they got a potential to remodel and change. And bones change shape. It's called Wolff's Law. Bones lay down where it's needed, resorb where it's not. So you change the force loading, you're going to see bone spurs go away. You're going to see a lot of what doctors will say bone spurs, or the thing that drives me crazy is calcium deposits. Okay. And oh, there's calcium deposits in the shoulder. Yeah, the body isn't going to just say, "Oh, I'm just going to replace, calcium in the joints to just irritate the person." No, the all the joints, you got two bones coming together, surrounded by that synovial capsule, and you've got cartilage or meniscus or something in there, and it's surrounded by a capsule to hold a fluid in there. Well, if the joint starts to lose its fluid and it becomes unstable, the capsular ligament starts to turn into bone. It's a mineralization. It's called ossification.
Mhm.
And so when doctors that are, God, I almost said moron doctors, when doctors that aren't looking at the processes of the body as adapting to those different force loads, and they think, "Oh, it's a disease." Yeah, degenerative disc disease, degenerative joint disease is not a disease. If you look at, because I taught biomechanics lab, and the Bible we used was Punjabi and white biomechanics.
Okay.
And they say that degenerative disc disease, degenerative joint disease, osteoarthritis are not diseases. They're from trauma. And if you think that, then your body, if everyone says, "Yeah, you got hip degeneration from a trauma," well, fix it. Okay. And then it can regenerate. So there
Interesting.
is a point, but you got to fix everything. And a chance when you fix everything, then you don't need it.
Ah, okay. So are you falling in love with Dr. Bergman? I know you are. So I want to encourage you, if you want to know more about him and you are a subscriber of the classroom, then you already have his information. So go to whenyounneedafriend.com. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe, like and follow me on all social media, including BitChute and Odyssey and all those other ones that nobody wants to go to because it's so much easier to just click on YouTube and Facebook. But I want to encourage you to start learning these new truths. I know it's a lot easier to go with the flow and say, "Well, that sounded like a lot. Man, I got to do this and this and this and this and this." But it's so much easier to go to the doctor and just get the bone cut off. If that's what you're thinking, think again. Once you're medicalized, you will always be medicalized. You won't have a chance to go back. But if you can do whatever you need to do, then if it fails, if you decide at the end of that it doesn't work, then you can do something else. But always choose the natural option first, so see what you need. And if that is This is what we talk about here in the classroom. So I'm so grateful that you are tuning in today. And while you're here and while you go to whenyouneedafriend.com, please make sure that you check out my sponsors, support them the way that they're supporting the classroom. Check out my Shop Now bag. These are all Lilly approved products. Some of them are affiliates to help the classroom and some of them are not. Some of them are just, hey, this is something that I recommend. It works well on me and perhaps it'll work with you. Everything that we discuss in the classroom, just make sure that you question everything and research it. Be curious about it as opposed to critical and make it your own. Just don't repeat everything we say. Just learn it on your own, and that way it'll become true for you. Not just because I said it or because Dr. Bergman said it. So do your own research and learn about everything that you possibly can before you make a permanent decision. Last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. And I was showing Dr. Bergman, one of my proud moments in the classroom is the work I've done with Dr. Lorraine Day, whether it's the book of Revelation study or the 100 lessons of the Exodus. Then whatever it is, whether it's if you like a DVD or if you want it online, it's so much cheaper online. But those are some of the things that you can do it yourself. Go to some of the classrooms, the classes that we've done, the workshops that we've done, that you can, repair your liver and gallbladder, do these things. When I was told that I had to have my gallbladder out stat, I was so grateful to have teachers in the classroom that taught me, no, you don't. So I just want to encourage you to check out all the workshops that we've done. And last but not least, you can become an enrolled student in the classroom. How can you help out the classroom? You can donate your time, your talent, your treasure, whether it's $1 or $1,000 a month or a one-time donation, whatever you can do. Even sharing this video, please share this video with all your friends, especially if they are wanting finally to get off that hamster wheel of medications and they want to start doing something different and new. So please consider helping out the classroom. We are so grateful for anything you can do. Today, I am very grateful to Dr. John Bergman, and I have followed him through the years. Sometimes I follow him really closely, and other times I've just lost track because I've been so busy. But anywhere you can, and any topic that you need, he is just like a human Rolodex. He can just spit it out there, and like I call them a Swiss Army knife because he does so much more than chiropractic care. You can find him at DRB, as in Bergman, VIP.com. That is where you can find him. And if you are a subscriber, once again, you can just click on his name and it'll take you to his website. So share a little bit of what's going on your website, some of the things that maybe I've missed out on because of all the stuff that's happening in the world that perhaps maybe you have expanded and maybe want to share a little bit more about what you're doing.
Yeah, we've spent 4 years. We've got our own server. It's located in Poland. It's a brand new site, and this is going to be fun because I can't speak freely on social media.
You
No one,
can.
no one can with
We
this.
want this to stay on Facebook and YouTube, right?
I think, yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is a site that we're going to have all of the. I think it's a little bit more than 600 videos that we had to delete or deleted
Mhm.
on our site, so we can have forums and everything else. But the Dr. BVIP site will send you over to that one. So it's up and running. So the site is there. Yeah. So this is going to be exciting because we have classes on there. We've got we call it the apprenticeship program, which is really, really cool. It's once a month where we do doctorate level education for everyone. But if you knew that your body was designed to live on this planet, you'd treat it better. And so it's, we're designed for it. And then I've got the clinic in Huntington Beach and the clinic in Tijuana, Mexico, which is real integrative. And we have 3 different clinics down there. Holistic dentistry, IVs. So we do brain repair and cancer correction. Although it's really, the body forms cancer. So you're not going after disease. You're just getting the body to build healthier cells.
Yes.
which that's going to blow some minds right there. But
That's right.
you know,
That might get
it's
us off the air.
sorry. I can be very, very cautious, but you know, getting the information out there and to where we can speak freely. That's
Yeah.
what the sites do.
That's wonderful. No, no. And when I said that might get us off the air, it's because, this is information that is so empowering. We've been so disempowered. We've been told that, we've been told a bunch of, the last time I spoke to Dr. Bruce Lipton, he
Mhm.
was very, very, um, very methodical of how he spoke and said this, but I don't think he believes that this is intentional for the most part, where people don't understand. And I think it was Dr. Lipton who said it. I don't think it was on purpose, but we've been taught certain things to keep us sick and small, keep us, from thinking that we're so powerful. And I always say that, God is everywhere. And so God is in me. And if I had a speck of God's power, I could do all things. And so can our body. And we have lost that connection to the earth with shoes and sneakers and rubber on our feet. We've lost that connection to that higher power that tells us that we will do this and more, that we can heal our bodies. So for people that are thinking that, I have rheumatoid arthritis or I have some itis in my body, and that only way I can do it is to take this chemical. What is your advice to them?
Healing only occurs from the inside out. A chiropractor doesn't heal anything. I move the bone, God does the healing.
Mm.
Your body is self healing, self regulating, and you adapt correctly 100% of the time. And it's a major pattern interrupt when people are asking the wrong questions. Like if you go to an allopathic doctor, that you're going to say, what do I have? What am I talk what what how do I get rid of it? What do I take? Instead of, the correct questions are, why did I develop this? How can I regenerate my body correctly? What type of, and why did I adapt in this fashion? That's empowering. And when people say it's genetic, really, what's the difference between genetic and genetic expression? We could do a whole talk on that. But
I hope so.
it's when they understand that their body is adapting correctly, that it's not a disease, and you address the underlying stressors that caused your body to adapt to that. And that's a complete mindset change, that your body is designed for this world and the world was designed for you. um Again, those are all tough concepts.
They are.
Which,
They are tough when you think you're a victim. Interviewing, the first time I interviewed Dr. Bruce Lipton was in 2013. And I said this the last time I interviewed him. I said, he changed my life. And he said, correction, you changed your life. He didn't, I could have taken that information, just like everybody today, watching today's class. You can take this information and totally reject it. Or you can be curious about this information and it could also be life-changing for you, because it's so empowering. That we are that powerful, that there are groups that want us to think that we're not. And so that's why I appreciate you so much, because I feel like God has given me a calling, just like John the Baptist, so to speak. I'm not the answer, I'm not the way, but I know the way and I know the answer. And that's where I feel compelled to point into that direction. I'm not the answer, and I'm not the way. I know what the way is. But I love the fact that you go deeper into sharing that information so that people will say, okay, well, maybe I didn't get it from this person. I didn't get it from this person. Just like I said many, many years ago, Dr. Day will never be on my show forever, ever again. I haven't had that feeling other than when she would come on prior to that, because she challenged me. She challenged me. So what would you say to someone who you're challenging today? Because You know, what you're saying is resonating with every cell in my body. But for someone who might be new to this, maybe they're tuning in for the first time, they stumbled upon the classroom and they're hearing you say how magnificent our body is and how God created it to heal itself. What would you tell them to kind of stop and say, um, here's the evidence?
Uh, the evidence, what you, gosh, to find out about a disease, like take rheumatoid arthritis or
Mhm.
multiple sclerosis.
Yes.
There's supposed to be diseases where the body is attacking itself. And none of that's true. The body is adapting to those stressors. So to the objective analysis that I use is um, pre and post x-rays, pre and post nerve scan, pre and post blood analysis. So we're not looking for disease. We're looking for the adaptive response of that human being. And when you change the stressors, you change the ability of that body to adapt and thrive in this environment. So even the sickest person, which just means that they're not building healthy cells. They got a chance to reverse that process and build healthier cells faster than they break down. It's a weird concept.
It is, but so give someone concrete evidence. There's just some of the steps, some of the tips that they can start doing right now to start bringing inflammation to its conclusion, which is health.
Okay, good. Number one, diet is going to be like the 10,000 generations that preceded you.
Mhm.
Fresh, organic, seasonal. If they're preserved, you get healthy bacteria. Change the sleep patterns because that's when your body regenerates. Look at our sleep restriction videos. Fantastic. Master your emotions because your emotions are under your control. I like neurolinguistic programming. You can do emotional freedom technique, but that way you're addressing the three stressors: physical stress, chemical stress, emotional stress. You can change your sitting patterns. Look at our lumbar health videos. And I talk about using a plastic water bottle. There's so many things you can do, but if you're addressing the sleep, the emotional, the diet, and the physical stressors, then that's a step you can do without spending any money.
It's so simple. It
Mhm.
is so simple. And I love how you make it kindergarten simple, that we can understand it. And hopefully everybody is going to be curious and go to your websites as well. Again, it's drbvip.com. And that's a website that you can go to. You know, when somebody says to me that the only way I can get better is to take this pill. I don't know if you saw this when you were researching me, but my registered service mark is you can take a pill or you can take responsibility. And it's not that I'm against the pill. I guess not. It's not that I'm against the pill, but I am for doing everything we possibly can before. And even Dr. Joel Furman has come on my show and said, listen, if you have a 99% blockage and you're not having symptoms, you can change your diet and reverse that. But there's a lot of doctors that will hear that and say, oh, that is irresponsible. There are a lot of people that will say, well, that's irresponsible. What do you say?
When you look at a 99% blockage, and that's typically they're talking about cardiac stuff, there's always angiogenesis where the body regenerates arteries. They form new arteries. And you look at Linus Pauling, 50 years ago, he developed a pattern to clean the arteries. Arteries can be cleaned within 4 to 6 months just by changing the nutrients, high dose vitamin C, L-lysine, stuff you got in your cupboards. It's not a magical thing, but the doctors are not taught this. And then we could do a whole talk on why arteries get clogged and how come veins don't. Okay, you got to understand what clogs the arteries. Okay, so we don't have time to get into it, but that would be like amazing. I just, it's like I got goosebumps. I want to tell the secret.
No, but this is great. No, this is great information. We'll dip the toe in. We talk about this in the classroom a lot. And the problem is people are afraid to try it because they're afraid. I've been coaching this woman who was told that if she could pass out at any time.
Mhm.
Well, just breathing that into the person is going to make her fearful of passing out anytime. So what's the
Mhm.
alternative? Surgery. But she could pass out after surgery. And that was what I was trying to explain to them. So there's this fear. So can you say something that as your final word, what is your hope message today as we close our classroom with some hope for people to be bold and brave to trust their body?
Your body is actually made in the image and likeness of God. It's self-healing, self-regulating, and self-adapting. And your body, if you address the underlying stressors, you're designed to live to 120 years. And so you maximize that life by maximizing tissue production. And disease is really just an adaptation, and that can be corrected.
Wow. I am so grateful to you. You just don't understand how grateful I am that you're out there in the world, pointing people into awareness of how great our body is and how powerful we really are. And so thank you so much for everything that you're doing to bring this awareness to all of us and giving us hope that we're not victims, that we are, in fact, choosing, as Dr. Day said to me, you get yourself sick. Not that you did it intentionally. That's my little, not that you did it intentionally, but we got ourselves sick. And if the good news is that if we did it to ourselves, we can undo it. So thank you so much for reminding us all the time that this is something that we can change at any time.
God,
So thank you.
God bless you, Lily. God bless you.
Well, right back at you. And all of you, if you can relate, share this video with everybody that you know, because the algorithms don't want you to do that. But the more you share, the more you click, the more emojis, the more comments you make, the less the algorithms can have power over us. So please share and share generously. And please remember, we'll be right here. And I know Dr. Bergman's coming back. I know that this is going to be a series in the classroom. And so please remember, we'll be right here waiting for you worldwide at whenyouniedafriend.com. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. John Bergman wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever.
Ever. Oops, sorry, I missed.
Make it the best day
Ever.
There you go.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert.